Welcome back to my channel, Celebes. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Johnny Whitaker really hated him more than anyone else. Johnny Whitaker was born John Orson Whitaker Jr. on December 13, 1959 in Van Nuys, California. He grew up in a big family with 8 kids. Johnny was always around warmth, faith, and had to be responsible from when he was very young. His nice personality and easy way of being was real both on TV and off TV. This would later become a big part of why people of all ages liked him so much. Johnny started working in entertainment when he was super young. Most kids his age were just learning how to read and write. He was only 3 years old when he got his first TV commercial. He was amazing at acting natural in front of cameras. It didn't take long for the people who pick actors to see that he had something special. He had the innocence of a little boy, but could also act like a real pro. This made him different from other kid actors. These early times on TV led to small parts in TV shows, but it was his big role as Jody Davis on the famous sitcom Family Affair from 1966 to 1971 that made him famous across the whole country. As one of the twin kids who lost their parents and were being raised by their single uncle, Jody became a main character in the show's sweet story about love, losing people, and family bonds. Johnny worked really well with his co-stars Brian Keith, Sebastian Catt, and Anna Jones. This gave the TV show a lot of heart. Millions of people watched every week to see his smile and hear his special voice. After his memorable part in Family Affair, Johnny Whitaker kept building his acting career. He got many different parts that showed how good and talented he was getting. In 1971, he was a guest star in an important 2-part episode of the classic Western TV series Gunsmoke. This was really important because Gunsmoke was one of the longest-running and most loved TV Western shows ever. Being picked for such a respected series gave Whitaker the chance to reach more people and work with actors who had lots of experience. His part in these episodes let him show that he could handle more serious, grown-up stories. This was very different from the family-friendly feeling of Family Affair. Using this success, Whitaker then became part of the unique and creative world made by Sid and Marty Krofft. These were smart producers known for their fantasy children's TV programs. In 1973, Whitaker starred in Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. This was a Saturday morning kids series that mixed humor, adventure, and fantasy together. Working with co-stars Billy Barty, a loved short actor known for being charming, and Scott Sen, Whitaker brought to life the story of 2 brothers who become friends with a misunderstood sea monster named Sigmund. The show's playful setting and weird characters let Whitaker connect with young viewers in a fun, lighthearted role. This showed off his natural charm and funny timing. This part helped make him a face that kids knew well on Saturday morning TV. This was during a time when Saturday morning shows were super important to American kids. At the same time as his TV work, Johnny Whitaker also did really well in movies during the early 1970s. He often worked with Disney and other family movie studios. In 1972 alone, he was in several movies that showed why people liked him as a kid actor who could handle the emotional parts and innocence needed for wholesome family entertainment. One of these was Snowball Express, a Disney comedy about a family's funny problems running a ski place. This let Whitaker do physical comedy and heartfelt moments. That same year, he starred in The Biscuit Eater, another Disney movie about the touching story of a boy and his dog. This showed even more that Whitaker could play real, honest characters that people of all ages could relate to. Also in 1972, Whitaker was in Napoleon and Samantha, a drama about friendship and surviving in the wild. In this movie, he acted alongside future star Jodie Foster. This film was praised for showing childhood and wilderness adventure in a realistic way. It gave Whitaker a chance to do more detailed acting. In 1977, Whitaker appeared in The Magic Pony, a lesser-known but charming family film about a magical horse. This role added to his collection of work in family-friendly movies. It made his image even stronger as one of the era's go-to young actors for heartwarming stories with animals and children's adventures. The biggest highlight of Whitaker's movie career during this time was probably his main role in the 1973 musical version of Tom Sawyer. This film brought a classic American book character to life in a lively musical style. Whitaker's performance as Tom showed not only his acting skills but also his singing and dancing talents. Taking on such a famous role was a major milestone for Whitaker. It required him to become the mischievous, spirited boy that people had loved for many years. The film's production had fancy sets and musical numbers, making it a big project that raised Whitaker's profile as a young star who could lead a major movie. This role remains one of the most important and memorable highlights of his early career. It symbolized his change from TV child actor to a real film lead. However, Johnny's life, like many former child stars, had turns that tested how strong and tough he was. As he grew into an adult, he faced challenges. This included struggling to find roles that matched his growing maturity and personal battles that came with life in the public eye. He eventually stepped away from Hollywood. He focused on personal growth, education, and helping others. In later years, he used his own life experiences to help other people. He worked with organizations aimed at addiction recovery and helping young people. This commitment to making a positive difference proved that his best qualities, kindness, compassion, and being real, were not just scripted traits from his roles. They were deeply rooted values in his own character. In 1999, Johnny Whitaker was honored with one of the most prestigious awards for former child actors, the Young Artist Former Child Star Lifetime Achievement Award. This award was presented at the 20th Annual Youth in Film Awards. It celebrated not only his memorable performances from the 1960s and 1970s, but also the lasting cultural impact of his work. By the time Whitaker received this award, decades had passed since his starring roles in beloved productions like Family Affair, Tom Sawyer, and Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. Yet his charm and talent had never been forgotten by fans and people in the industry. The honor served as proof of his lasting legacy and the way his childhood roles continued to connect with audiences of all ages. Moving into the 2010s, Whitaker stayed active in entertainment, trying new media formats. In 2012, he took on the role of co-producer and co-host for The Doctor, Saad and Johnny Show. This was a radio talk program that combined humor, conversation, and discussions about various topics. Although the show didn't last long, it showed Whitaker's willingness to adapt to changing entertainment and explore opportunities beyond acting. His on-air partnership with the eccentric and charismatic Dr. Zad brought a unique dynamic to the program. It allowed Whitaker to showcase his personality and wit in an unscripted live format. The next year in 2013, Whitaker returned to the stage in a theater setting. He joined the Judson Theater Company for their production of To Kill a Mockingbird. In this version of Harper Lee's classic novel, he played the role of Judge Taylor. This was a minor yet important character whose calm authority helped set the tone for the courtroom scenes. Though the role was a cameo, Whitaker's presence was a nostalgic delight for longtime fans. They appreciated seeing him in a live performance after so many years, primarily on screen. His participation also showed his versatility as a performer, moving smoothly between radio, stage, and screen projects. In 2016, Whitaker made a return to one of his most iconic childhood associations, Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. Amazon had launched a reboot of the beloved 1970s children's series, Enigma. This introduced the quirky sea creature to a new generation. Whitaker appeared in the premiere episode in a playful guest star cameo as Zach, a heckling boat owner whose loud personality added humor to the storyline. Sharing the screen with actor David Arquette, who played the gruff Captain Barnabas, Whitaker's appearance served as a bridge between the original and modern versions of the show. Fans of the original series were especially delighted by this nod to its history. It was made even more special by the cameo appearances of the original show creators, Sid and Marty Krofft, in the same episode. It was a moment of full-circle nostalgia, with Whitaker not only revisiting a world he had helped bring to life decades earlier, but also passing the torch to a new era of storytellers and viewers. Johnny Whitaker's personal life, though often overshadowed by his early fame as a beloved child actor, includes an important chapter involving his marriage to Cimbria Wright. The two were married in 1984 at a time when Whitaker was transitioning from his years as a TV and film star into a more private and less public phase of his life. The marriage marked what appeared to be a hopeful new beginning for him. He was in his mid-20s and seeking stability after a youth spent largely in the entertainment spotlight. Cimbria Wright, whose life had not been as public as Whitaker's, brought her own personality, background, and dreams into the relationship. Together, they stepped into married life with the optimism that many young couples share. Their union, however, would prove to be relatively short-lived. After 4 years together, the marriage ended in divorce in 1988. Although the exact details of their separation were kept private, it is clear that the split represented a period of change and reevaluation for Whitaker. The end of the marriage came during a time when he was already facing personal and professional transitions. It would later be part of the broader picture of challenges he openly discussed in interviews, including struggles with substance abuse and his eventual recovery. While their marriage did not last, Cimbria Wright's time in Johnny Whitaker's life remains a notable chapter. It offers a glimpse into the human side of a man often remembered primarily for his work as Jody on Family Affair and in films like Tom Sawyer. For Whitaker, the experience of marriage and its dissolution no doubt shaped some of his later perspectives on relationships, personal growth, and the importance of maintaining balance between public career demands and private life. In the broader scope of his biography, his marriage to Cimbria Wright stands as a reminder that even those who grow up in the limelight experience the same complexities, joys, and heartbreaks as anyone else. To understand the intensity behind Johnny Whitaker's hatred for Brian Keith, one must look deeply into the complex, often difficult relationship they shared during their time working together. Johnny Whitaker, a child actor known for his advanced talent and sensitivity, found himself under the shadow of Brian Keith's imposing presence. Keith, an experienced actor with decades of experience, was widely respected in Hollywood. He was known for his commanding screen presence and his versatility. Yet behind the scenes, the dynamic between these two was far from peaceful. Whitaker's hatred was not born out of petty rivalry or surface dislike, but came from a deeper well of emotional pain and frustration. As a young actor dealing with the pressures of early fame, Johnny often looked for guidance and support from his adult co-stars. Instead of encouragement, however, he encountered Brian Keith's harshness. Whitaker saw this as a cold, almost dismissive attitude. This lack of empathy and understanding from someone he expected to be a mentor contributed greatly to Whitaker's growing resentment. Furthermore, Brian Keith's reputation for tough love and strict professionalism often clashed with Whitaker's youthful innocence and vulnerability. Where Whitaker sought kindness and patience, Keith offered criticism and a demanding presence on set. The emotional toll this took on Johnny was huge. He felt overshadowed and undervalued, convinced that Keith deliberately undermined him or treated him unfairly compared to others. This perceived injustice fueled a simmering hatred that lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. There were also incidents and specific moments that etched this hatred more deeply into Whitaker's mind. Reports from those who witnessed their interaction suggest that Keith could be rough and intimidating, especially toward younger cast members like Johnny. Whether it was curt, dismissive gestures or a stern on-set demeanor, these actions left lasting scars. Whitaker felt isolated, believing that no one else understood the pressure he was under or the emotional wounds inflicted by Brian Keith's behavior. Adding to the complexity was the nature of their characters and storyline on the projects they worked on together. This sometimes mirrored real-life tensions. On shows such as Family Affair, where Brian Keith played the father figure to Whitaker's character, the contrast of on-screen affection and off-screen friction created a confusing emotional landscape for Johnny. It blurred the lines between performance and reality, making the personal animosity even harder to bear. Over time, the hatred Whitaker felt grew into something almost all-consuming. It wasn't just a passing dislike, but an entrenched emotional response shaped by countless interactions, disappointments, and perceived betrayals. This profound dislike influenced Whitaker's reflections on his early career and shaped his narrative about those formative years in Hollywood. Even decades later, when many conflicts softened with time, the bitterness toward Brian Keith remained unusually strong. In interviews and memoirs, Johnny Whitaker has been honest about the psychological and emotional challenges he faced growing up as a child star. Within these honest revelations, the strain of his relationship with Brian Keith emerges as one of the most painful and defining experiences. Whitaker's hatred speaks to a broader truth about the hardships child actors often endure behind the glamour. These include feelings of neglect, misunderstanding, and emotional conflict that can sometimes be magnified by difficult adult figures in their lives. Ultimately, Johnny Whitaker's intense feelings toward Brian Keith reveal a story not just of personal animosity, but of the struggles between generations, of the harsh realities behind the entertainment industry's polished facade, and of a young boy's yearning for respect and kindness in a world that was often anything but gentle.